Back in 2008, something pretty incredible happened. An interview with a spiritual teacher didn't just air on TV, it completely shattered the mold. It turned into this live, interactive, global classroom that connected people from every walk of life, all trying to answer one of the biggest questions there is: what is my purpose? So let's dive into this landmark conversation between Oprah Winfrey and Eckhart Tolle and see what it can teach us today.
Oprah herself kicked the whole thing off by saying this was, quote, the most exciting thing she'd ever done. Now just think about that for a second. Coming from Oprah, of all people, with her career, that's a huge statement. This was clearly not just another talk show. It was a massive global event, all built around Eckhart Tolle's book, A New Earth. And when I say global, I am not kidding. People from 139 different countries tuned in live. I mean, from Albania all the way to Zimbabwe. You had U.S. soldiers Skyping in from their base in Germany. You had book clubs gathered together in living rooms in Chicago. It was this incredible, shared experience happening in real time on a scale nobody had ever really seen before.
So here's what we're going to cover in this explainer. First, we'll look at the sheer scale of this global classroom. Then we'll dive into the pretty intense crisis Tolle says we're all facing. From there, we'll get into his really radical idea about where purpose actually comes from, check out some simple ways to practice being present, and then wrap it all up with the one relationship that, according to him, changes everything.
So, what really made this a classroom? Well, it was totally interactive. It wasn't just a lecture. People were emailing in their questions, calling in on Skype, and getting to talk directly with Oprah and Tolle right then and there. The whole point was for everyone, together, to figure out what their life's purpose was all about.
That massive global turnout, it really points to something, doesn't it? It shows this deep, collective hunger for answers. And that brings us right to the heart of Tolle's message. Why this book? Why right now? Well, for him, this isn't just some nice self-help idea. It's literally about survival. He believes humanity is at a major fork in the road.
And let me be clear, he's not speaking in metaphors. Tolle's core argument is that our default way of thinking, our normal state of consciousness, is fundamentally destructive. He warns that if we don't make a radical shift, and soon, we're going to end up destroying ourselves and the planet.
And to make this really hit home, he points to a chilling fact. In the 20th century alone, human beings killed over 100 million other human beings. He just calls it what it is: unbelievable insanity. And it's that insane, destructive pattern that he argues we're now being forced to grow beyond.
So, what's behind all this? What's driving the crisis? Tolle says it's something he calls the egoic consciousness. You know that little voice in your head, the one that's constantly judging, complaining, and worrying about the past and the future? Yeah, that's it. And here's the really dangerous part. Modern technology has basically become a megaphone for that dysfunctional voice, amplifying our old habits of conflict to a global and maybe even catastrophic level.
Okay, so if the ego is the problem, what's the solution? Well, Tolle suggests it all starts with a huge shift in how we even think about purpose. It's not about forcing your will onto the world, it's actually about listening for what the world, or life itself, is asking of you.
And this right here really gets to the heart of it. The ego is constantly asking, what do I want from life? What can I get? It sees life as something to take from. Tolle just flips that completely on its head. He says we need to start asking, what does life want from me? It's a simple switch, but it moves us from our own little agenda to being in sync with something much, much bigger.
You can see this perfectly in Tolle's own story. He says he didn't sit down and decide to write his famous book, The Power of Now. Instead, he describes it as this overwhelming feeling, like the book itself wanted to be born through him. So in this view, your purpose isn't something you invent. It's something that flows through you when you get out of the way.
Now, I know some of this might be sounding a little abstract, but Tolle is adamant that the shift isn't some mystical, far-off goal. It's actually something you build through really simple, practical things you can do right now in your daily life. It's all about breaking that powerful habit of being constantly lost in your own head.
So let's start with something we all know way too well, that nonstop voice in the head. There was a caller, for instance, who asked about the voice that was making her feel guilty because she didn't go to church. We all have a version of that voice, right? But what is it, really?
Tolle's answer is that this voice is just conditioned thought. It's basically a bundle of old mental habits you've picked up from your past, your family, your culture. The key to freedom isn't to fight with it or try to shut it up. The key is just to notice it. The moment you become the awareness that's listening to the thought, you've already taken a step back. You're no longer totally lost in it.
So how do you practice this noticing? Tolle offered 3 super simple ways. First, look at something in nature, like a flower or a tree, but without putting a label on it. Don't think tree, just see it. Second, just bring your attention to your breath going in and out. And third, bring your full awareness to some boring everyday task, like actually feeling the warm water on your hands when you're washing them.
Look, it's really easy to hear that and think, what's the point of just feeling my breath? But Tolle argues that these tiny little acts are actually revolutionary. Each time you do one, you're making a conscious choice to bring a little gap of presence into your day. And over time, all those little moments start to wear down the old, automatic, egoic patterns. You're literally retraining your brain to be right here, right now.
And this brings us right to the ultimate takeaway from all of this. The huge global transformation that Tolle is talking about, it's not something that happens out there somewhere. It starts inside every single one of us. It all comes down to your relationship with this very moment.
Here's the bottom line. Every little bit of anger or resentment or fear that we hold on to, it adds to the collective dysfunction of the world. So the only way to really change the world is for each one of us to take responsibility for our own inner space. Real change, lasting change, always starts from the inside out.
Tolle used this ancient quote to kind of distill the whole teaching down to its essence. Be still. That means go beyond the noisy chatter of the mind. And know. And in that stillness, you get a direct experience of that formless, timeless part of yourself, the essence of who you really are beyond your thoughts and your story.
So we'll leave you with the one question that Tolle says is the key to absolutely everything. What is your relationship with the present moment, right now? Is it your friend or is it your enemy? Are you at peace with what is, or are you always resisting it? According to Tolle, your answer to that single question, well, that determines the entire quality of your life.